Welcome back to Peaceful Soul, the place where we learn together how to care for our minds and find balance in this fast-paced modern world. Today, I want to share with you a powerful practice, an exercise that can completely change the way you deal with uncomfortable emotions, anxiety, and even challenging relationships. This isn't just a small trick, it's truly a tool that can help you live more intentionally, react less on impulse, and take action with greater awareness. It may sound big, but you'll be surprised at how simple it actually is to practice. First, let's remember this. Emotions are not the enemy. In fact, modern neuroscience shows that when we try to avoid our feelings, the brain activates the amygdala, the center for fear and anxiety, which actually makes stress worse. That explains why so many people who try not to think about it end up more restless, anxious, or even lose sleep. That's why today's exercise is designed to break that cycle. It's not an instant cure, but more like training your brain the same way you'd train a muscle at the gym. Let me give you a familiar example. Linda, a 62-year-old woman I met at a workshop, once told me that whenever she argued with her husband, she would start cleaning the house like crazy, just to avoid facing the heavy feelings inside. She thought she was releasing stress, but in reality she was only running away from her emotions. After practicing this exercise for just a few weeks, Linda discovered she could actually sit still with that discomfort, observe it, and eventually feel lighter, without burying it under distractions. Her story proves something important. When we allow emotions to exist, they often pass more quickly than when we try to suppress them. In this video, I'll walk you step by step through this special mindfulness exercise introduced by teacher Thomas McConkie. Along the way, I'll break down the science behind why it works, and I'll share some of my own experiences along with stories from everyday Americans who've practiced it successfully. So stick around until the very end, because sometimes, just one small shift in how we face ourselves can open the door to an entirely different way of living. First, find yourself a comfortable seat. It could be your favorite chair in the living room or maybe a cushion on the floor. What matters isn't where you sit, but how you sit. Keep your back upright, not stiff but not slouched either. When the body finds a balanced position, the brain gets the signal that you're safe and ready. Research from Stanford has shown that even simple posture shifts, like sitting upright and opening your shoulders, can lower anxiety and increase feelings of confidence. This is a gentle warm-up step, but it holds powerful foundations. Now, take a deep breath in, and then exhale a little longer than usual. Notice the sound of your breath, almost like you're pressing the reset button for your entire nervous system. When you exhale slowly, the parasympathetic system kicks in, acting like a brake that slows the heart rate and eases tension. I remember James, a 55-year-old veteran, who used to panic whenever memories of combat returned. With just a few guided breaths, he noticed his heartbeat slowing down. He told me, "I don't need to run away from my feelings anymore, I just need to breathe with them." That one sentence captures the real power of this practice. Before we go further, ask yourself, do I feel safe enough to listen to my body right now? This isn't a small detail, it's the foundation of the entire exercise. When the brain senses danger, it instantly switches to defense mode, making it hard to focus and easy to get overwhelmed. So if today you're exhausted or just had a really tough day, give yourself permission to pause. Modern therapy shows that these pauses actually strengthen the healing process in the long run. I think of Karen, a 48-year-old mother from Texas, who once came to me overwhelmed with guilt for losing her temper at her teenage son. During her first session, when I asked if she felt safe enough to continue, she broke down crying and admitted she was too stressed to go deeper. We stopped, she had some tea, took a short walk, and came back later. That time, she felt strong enough to continue, and her experience was completely different. The lesson here is simple. You don't need to force yourself. Just be honest with what you're feeling in the moment. When you're ready, start tuning in to what's happening inside your body right now. You don't have to look for anything in particular. Just notice if there's any disturbance. Maybe some tightness in your neck, a little pressure in your chest, or just a vague sense of restlessness. We all experience hundreds, even thousands, of micro moments like this every day without realizing it. And to avoid facing them, we often distract ourselves, suppress, or rationalize. But in this practice, instead of avoiding, you do the opposite. Sit still and step right into the heart of the sensation. And if you don't notice anything obvious at this moment, you can recall a recent situation that was uncomfortable. Maybe it was a tense conversation with a coworker, a careless comment from someone, or even something as simple as disappointment over the weather ruining your plans. Remember, this isn't to make you suffer more, it's just raw material for practice. As you recall the situation, notice how your body responds. Maybe your heart speeds up a little, your stomach tightens, or your shoulders feel heavier. That's the doorway into practice. Now, pay attention to where exactly that feeling is in your body. Don't rush to name it, and don't get caught up in the story around it. Normally, when we're upset, our mind races into thoughts like, how could that person do this to me? Or, this should never have happened. But today, set those stories aside. Instead of clinging to the mental script, just observe the raw physical sensation, the tightening, the sharp sting, or the heaviness. This is how we return to the present moment, not through reasoning, but through direct experience in the body. Once you've noticed the feeling present in your body, your job isn't to chase it away or rush to fix it. Instead, try sitting with it, as if you're sitting beside a sad friend you truly care about. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to give advice. Just be there and listen. It's like a child crying. Not every child needs an explanation. Sometimes what they really need most is to be held long enough to feel safe. Your emotions are the same. They simply need a space where they can be acknowledged. Give that feeling time to reveal itself. At first, it might feel even more uncomfortable, like touching a wound for the first time. But if you stay patient, you'll notice it begin to shift. Maybe the tightness softens, or the heaviness starts to spread and then dissolve. Neuroscientists call this the emotional wave. Most emotions only last fully for about 90 seconds. Unless we keep fueling them with stories in our minds. When you just observe without adding more, the body naturally completes the cycle and returns to balance. Take David, a 36-year-old office worker in New York. As an example, he often felt haunted by stressful meetings. Every time his boss showed even a hint of dissatisfaction, David carried guilt home with him and spent sleepless nights replaying it. Through this practice, he realized that the knot in his stomach always showed up first. Instead of ignoring it, he sat still and breathed with it. Within minutes, he described the feeling as a clenched fist slowly opening. The magic wasn't in forcing himself to think positive, but in allowing his body to do the work it already knew how to do. And if, while observing, you find yourself pulled in too deep or starting to panic, remember this. You always have the option to come back to your breath. Notice the air coming in through your nose and leaving through your mouth. Or simply place your hand on your chest to feel the rise and fall. This is your anchor, keeping you steady in the middle of strong emotions. Some people also use the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Name 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 sounds you hear, 2 scents you notice, and 1 taste in your mouth. It's a quick way to ground yourself in the present moment. When the practice comes to an end, don't expect every emotion to vanish completely. What matters more is that you've trained a new skill, the ability to sit with your feelings instead of fighting or running from them. This is the first step toward building inner peace. Over time, you'll find that anxiety, anger, or sadness no longer feel as terrifying as before, because you know you can face them. And with every session, you're planting one more seed of resilience in your soul. Before diving deeper into any emotion, ask yourself a simple question. Right now, do I feel safe enough to really sit with myself? It may sound gentle, but it's an incredibly important question. When the brain senses danger, even if it's just from an old memory or a stressful day, your natural defense system kicks in. In that state, your body is primed to fight or flee, and there's no room to calmly observe your emotions. If today has already been too overwhelming, give yourself permission to take a break. This practice isn't a test, and you don't have to prove anything. In fact, trauma therapy research shows that pausing when the body signals overload actually supports long-term healing. Safety, both physical and emotional, is the foundation that allows you to return and continue whenever you're ready. I think of Karen, a 48-year-old mother in Texas. Each time she tried to sit quietly, Memories of her divorce would surface, leaving her breathless and in tears. At first, she forced herself to stay, but it only ended with her breaking down and giving up. Later, once she learned she had full permission to stop, stand up, take a walk, drink some water, and return when she was ready, Karen finally experienced that her body had a choice. That sense of, I am safe, completely transformed her practice. If you want to check in on your own sense of safety right now, try looking around the room. Notice that nothing is threatening you. Feel the chair supporting your whole body. You might even place a hand over your heart and tell yourself, I am here. I am safe. Small signals like this help the brain register reality and gradually switch off its alarm system. Scientists call this reorienting, bringing attention back to the present to remind yourself there is no danger. And remember, the feeling of safety doesn't always arrive instantly. Sometimes it has to be built through small, repeated actions. Each time you ask yourself this question, you're strengthening your ability to listen to and respect your body. Over time, this very habit becomes the steady foundation that allows you to confidently explore even the harder emotional experiences. Once you've grounded your body and created a sense of safety, the next step is learning how to observe emotions as they are, without rushing to label or judge them. Usually, when an emotion arises, like sadness, anger, or anxiety, our automatic reaction is to attach it to a story. I'm so weak. I'm a failure, or I shouldn't even feel this way. But in reality, it's these judgments that make the emotions feel so much heavier. Try shifting your perspective. Think of emotions like clouds passing across the sky. They come, they go, and all you need to do is watch. You don't have to hate them, and you don't have to cling to them either. In doing this, you begin to separate emotions from your identity. Mindfulness research calls this decentering, the ability to see thoughts and feelings as temporary events, not absolute truths. With practice, this skill gives you more freedom and less control from your emotions. I think of Mark, a 42-year-old teacher in California. After years of financial stress, he was often hit by waves of anxiety. He told me that whenever his heart started racing, he immediately thought, I must be having a heart attack. That thought alone would spiral into full-blown panic. But when he practiced observing without judgment, things began to change. The first time his heart pounded, he told himself, this is just a feeling of anxiety passing through. And amazingly, without the extra judgment, the anxiety lasted only a few minutes before settling down. You can try this by paying attention to your inner language. Each time an emotion arises, instead of saying, I am sad, try saying, I am experiencing sadness. That small shift helps you realize you are not your emotions. You're simply having a temporary experience. It's the difference between being swept away by a wave and sitting on the shore watching the waves roll in. Interestingly, the brain also responds differently when you make this shift. Neuroimaging studies show that when people observe emotions without judgment, activity in the amygdala, the fear center, decreases, while the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational control, lights up. In other words, you're training your brain to respond more calmly to emotional challenges. And don't worry if, at first, you still get swept up in your emotions. That's completely normal. This skill is like building a muscle. Every time you return to observing without judgment, you're strengthening your mind. Over time, you'll find you can sit with difficult emotions without being carried away by them. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools you always carry with you is your breath. Breathing is natural. Everyone does it, but if you know how to use it, it can become an anchor that grounds you in the present, especially when emotions are running high. Imagine you're sitting in a meeting and your boss suddenly criticizes you in front of your coworkers. Instantly, your face feels hot, your heart starts racing, and your mind is ready to fire back. In moments like this, most people either snap angrily or stay silent and swallow their frustration. But if you know how to return to your breath, you have another option. Just one deep inhale, followed by a slow exhale, repeated a few times, sends a signal of safety to your nervous system, telling your body, it's okay, I'm in control. I think of Linda, a 35-year-old nurse in Texas, who worked under extreme pressure during the pandemic. She told me that after grueling 16-hour shifts, even one difficult patient could push her to tears. But Linda trained herself to practice what she called the 3 deep breaths. Each time she felt herself about to break down, she paused, closed her eyes, and inhaled slowly through her nose, held it for a few seconds, then released a long exhale. Just 3 rounds were enough to calm her down so she could carry on with her work. Science backs this up too. Research from Stanford University shows that slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering heart rate, reducing blood pressure, and shifting the body from fight or flight back into a state of rest. What's fascinating is that just 90 seconds of focused breathing can reset your brain from an emotional outburst. The best part? You can practice it anytime, anywhere, driving your car, standing in line at the grocery store, or even sitting on your couch watching TV. You can always come back to your breath. It's like having a secret pause button you can press whenever life gets too loud. And remember, you don't need to make it a complicated ritual. Simply pay attention to the rhythm of your inhale and exhale. Some people like to count: inhale to 4, hold to 4, then exhale to 6 or 8. Others prefer placing a hand on their chest just to feel the rise and fall. Choose whatever feels most natural to you. The goal isn't perfect control, it's allowing your breath to become the thread that ties you back to the present. And every time you return to it, you're reminding yourself, I'm not controlled by my emotions. I have the power to choose how I respond. One of the most powerful secrets for transforming your emotional experience, especially in stressful moments, is gratitude. It may sound counterintuitive, right? When we're sad, anxious, or angry, the last thing we want to think about is being grateful. And yet, gratitude can open a new doorway, helping us see the bigger picture instead of getting stuck in a cycle of negativity. Imagine you've just had a terrible day, work is a mess. Your car breaks down, and to top it off, a close friend cancels on you. In that moment, it's easy for your mind to slip into, everything is against me. But if you pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, right now, what's the smallest thing I can be grateful for? Maybe it's a kind coworker who helped you finish a last-minute task. Or simply the fact that you still have a home to return to. When you shift your focus toward gratitude, your body starts releasing dopamine and serotonin, neurochemicals that bring feelings of happiness and safety. I'm reminded of David, a veteran from Ohio, who struggled with PTSD for years after leaving the military. Many nights, he woke up drenched in sweat from nightmares. But through a support group, he learned to practice gratitude. David began writing down 3 things he was grateful for every night, even on his worst days. At first, they were small. I'm grateful I survived today. Or, I'm grateful I can smell my morning coffee. Over time, this habit softened the weight of his painful memories and helped him feel more connected to his present life. Science confirms this. Research from the University of California, Davis, found that people who kept a gratitude journal for just 10 weeks were more optimistic, slept better, and even visited the doctor less often compared to a control group. Another study from Harvard University showed that consistent gratitude practice can actually rewire the brain, strengthening regions tied to empathy and decision-making. The important thing is, you don't have to wait until life is perfect to practice gratitude. In fact, it's in the tough moments that gratitude shines the brightest. It's like carrying a small flashlight to light your path when walking through the dark. You can try it right now, the next time stress rises. Place your hand over your chest. Take a deep breath, and silently repeat, I'm grateful I still have the chance to learn from this challenge. It doesn't need to be anything grand. The simpler the gratitude, the greater its healing power. One of the most common mistakes people make when facing difficult emotions is holding them in for too long. They believe staying silent is the strongest choice, or they fear others won't understand. But in reality, science has shown that sharing your experiences with someone you trust not only brings relief but actually changes how your brain processes emotions. Think about the last time you felt upset about something. Maybe you stayed quiet all day, and the more you bottled it up, the heavier it felt. But then you finally picked up the phone, called a close friend, poured it all out, and heard them simply say, I get it, I'm here for you. In that moment, a part of the weight immediately lifted. That's the power of human connection. Sarah's story illustrates this beautifully. She's a single mom in Michigan who, in her early years of raising her child, often felt overwhelmed. Balancing work and childcare, she constantly struggled with the belief that she wasn't good enough. Instead of sharing, she bottled everything up until she nearly reached the point of burnout. Eventually, Sarah joined a support group for single mothers. She recalls the very first time she broke down in tears in front of strangers and heard another mom say, "I've been there too." That was the moment she realized she wasn't alone. From then on, Sarah learned to open up more, and her mental health improved significantly. Researchers at UCLA have identified a phenomenon called affect labeling, the act of putting emotions into words. When you name and share what you're feeling, activity in the amygdala, the brain's fear and stress center, decreases, while the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning and control center, becomes more active. In other words, sharing emotions is like hitting the release valve for your nervous system. And sharing doesn't always have to be a long, heavy conversation. Sometimes it's as simple as sending a quick text to someone you trust, or writing a few lines in a journal and later sharing them with your therapist. The key is to give your emotions an outlet instead of letting them stay stuck inside your mind. Remember, needing help doesn't make you weak. True courage lies in being honest with others about what you're going through. And when you open up, you not only create healing for yourself, you also give others permission to feel safe sharing their struggles too. There's a truth that most people don't want to hear, but it's absolutely essential. There are no shortcuts when it comes to building emotional strength. Just like muscles, your mind and emotions only grow stronger through repeated practice, day after day. Picture this. You sign up for the gym. On your very first day lifting weights, you're not going to see big muscles overnight. But if you keep showing up 3 or 4 times a week, after a few months you'll notice real change. The same is true for mental health. Every time you take a deep breath during stress, every time you write in your journal, every time you share a difficult experience, it's like doing another set for your brain. The most important part is being patient with yourself. Some days you'll feel real progress, and other days you'll slip back into negative emotions. That's completely normal. Instead of criticizing yourself, view each challenge as part of the training process. Take Mark, a veteran from Texas, as an example. When he returned from combat, he struggled with anxiety disorders. At first, he desperately searched for a quick fix to escape the nightmares and panic attacks. But once he committed to meditation, breathing exercises, and journaling, he realized that real change didn't happen in days, it happened over months of persistence. Today, after years of steady practice, Mark lives a calmer life. And he says with confidence, patience is the key. Psychologists call this the accumulation effect. Every small action, no matter how insignificant it seems, adds up to create a big transformation over time. It's like dripping water into a jar. Eventually, the jar fills up. You can start small by building simple habits like setting a reminder on your phone to breathe deeply for 3 minutes each morning, writing down one thing you're grateful for before bed, sharing with a friend once a week about something you've overcome. When repeated often, these small actions become healthy emotional habits, a strong foundation for facing any challenge life throws at you. Remember, building emotional strength isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Every step you take, no matter how small, moves you closer to balance and peace. And if you found these insights helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Peaceful Soul, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. Share your story in the comments. Have you tried any of these 7 tips? And how did they change your life? Your experience might be the spark of inspiration someone else is waiting for.